Who was Taranatha? Imagine this. A man living in the rugged snow-capped mountains of Tibet in the late 16th century. A scholar, a mystic, and a visionary. His name was Taranatha, 1575 to 1634. And he wasn't just any ordinary thinker. He was a beacon of wisdom, a bridge between the ancient teachings of India and the spiritual evolution of Tibet. But what made him truly extraordinary? It wasn't just his intellect or his historical writings. It was his visions. Yes, visions. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be visited by a divine being while meditating? To hear their voice, to see their radiant presence, and to receive teachings so profound that they reshape your entire worldview. That's exactly what happened to Taranatha. Taranatha's life was a tapestry woven with threads of scholarship, mysticism, and devotion, born into a world where the boundaries between the mundane and the sacred were often blurred. He grew up immersed in the rich traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. From a young age, he displayed an insatiable curiosity about the nature of reality and the path to enlightenment. But it wasn't until his encounter with Mañjuśrī, the bodhisattva of wisdom, that his journey truly began to unfold. Taranatha was not only a historian, but also a philosopher, a practitioner, and a teacher. He wrote extensively on Buddhist history, chronicling the lives of Indian masters and the transmission of teachings to Tibet. His works, such as The 100 Blazing Lights, remain invaluable resources for understanding the development of Buddhism in both India and Tibet. Yet, his most enduring legacy lies in his mystical experiences, those moments when the veil between the human and the divine lifted, revealing truths that transcended the limitations of language and logic. But who was Taranatha beyond his scholarly achievements? What kind of person was he? Accounts describe him as deeply humble despite his vast knowledge. He was known for his kindness, his patience, and his unwavering commitment to the Dharma. These qualities endeared him to his students and peers alike, making him not just a revered figure, but also a beloved one. His humility is particularly striking when we consider the magnitude of his accomplishments. Imagine dedicating your life to preserving the teachings of enlightened beings, knowing that your work will shape the spiritual landscape for centuries to come. And yet, Taranatha never sought fame or recognition. Instead, he saw himself as a servant of the Dharma, a conduit through which wisdom could flow to future generations. Isn't that a remarkable way to live? In a world obsessed with self-promotion, Taranatha's example reminds us of the quiet power of service and dedication. The divine encounter with Mañjuśrī. What does it mean to be chosen? Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself sitting in deep meditation, your mind calm as still water. Suddenly, a figure appears before you. Mañjuśrī, the bodhisattva of wisdom, glowing with an otherworldly light. Can you imagine the awe, the sheer wonder of such an encounter? For Taranatha, this wasn't just a dream or a fleeting thought. It was a life-altering experience. But why him? Why Taranatha? Was it his years of disciplined practice, his unwavering faith, or something deeper? A cosmic alignment that we mere mortals can only speculate about. Whatever the reason, Mañjuśrī didn't just appear to chat casually. No, he revealed hidden teachings, esoteric knowledge that had been concealed from the world for centuries. These weren't just words. They were keys to unlocking the mysteries of existence. And Taranatha, humble yet courageous, transcribed these revelations, ensuring that future generations could benefit from them. Isn't it remarkable how one person's vision can ripple through time, touching countless lives? Think about it. If Taranatha hadn't acted on his experience, where would those teachings be today? Lost forever, perhaps. Doesn't that make you reflect on the importance of listening to your own inner voice, of trusting the whispers of the universe? What makes this story even more compelling is the philosophical depth it carries. In Tibetan Buddhism, visions are not seen as random occurrences, but as manifestations of karmic connections and spiritual maturity. Taranatha's encounter with Mañjuśrī suggests that enlightenment is not a solitary pursuit, but a collaborative effort between human beings and enlightened beings. This raises a profound question. Are we ever truly alone on our spiritual journeys? Or are there unseen forces guiding us toward awakening? Let's delve deeper into the symbolism of this encounter. Mañjuśrī, as the embodiment of wisdom, represents the highest form of intellectual and spiritual clarity. His appearance in Taranatha's vision underscores the idea that true wisdom is not merely intellectual knowledge, but a fusion of insight, compassion, and action. It's a reminder that wisdom must be lived, not just studied. Moreover, the act of receiving teachings directly from a bodhisattva highlights the concept of lineage in Tibetan Buddhism. Lineage refers to the unbroken chain of transmission through which teachings are passed down from master to disciple. Taranatha's vision placed him squarely within this lineage, connecting him to a long line of enlightened beings who had walked the path before him. This connection gave his work legitimacy and authority, but it also placed a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He was no longer just a scholar. He was a custodian of sacred knowledge. The teachings, wisdom that transcends time. What did Taranatha learn during this divine encounter? Let's dive into the depths of his teachings, shall we? One of the most profound ideas he championed was the concept of Shentong, the belief that ultimate reality is not empty, but full of luminous qualities. Isn't that a beautiful paradox? Emptiness, often misunderstood as nothingness, becomes a radiant fullness when viewed through the lens of Shentong. But here's the philosophical twist. Isn't life itself like that? We often think of emptiness as loss, as absence. But what if it's actually a space waiting to be filled with light? When you lose something, a job, a relationship, even a dream, don't you eventually find that the void creates room for something new, something unexpected? This is the essence of Shentong, embracing the emptiness not as an end, but as a beginning. Taranatha's texts, such as The 100 Blazing Lights, are more than historical accounts. They're invitations to see the world differently, to recognize the interconnectedness of all things. Have you ever stopped to consider how every action you take ripples outward, affecting others in ways you may never fully understand? That's the web of interdependence, a core tenet of Buddhist philosophy, illuminated by Taranatha's visionary insights. Another fascinating aspect of Taranatha's teachings is their emphasis on the integration of wisdom and compassion. In Tibetan Buddhism, wisdom without compassion is considered incomplete, and vice versa. Taranatha's works remind us that true enlightenment arises when we balance intellectual understanding with heartfelt empathy. Isn't that a lesson we could all use in our daily lives? How often do we focus solely on logic, neglecting the emotional needs of those around us? Or conversely, how often do we act out of emotion without considering the broader implications of our actions? Taranatha also explored the nature of consciousness and the mind. He believed that the mind is inherently luminous and that its true nature is obscured by ignorance and delusion. This perspective aligns with the broader Mahayana tradition, which teaches that enlightenment is the realization of one's innate Buddha nature. But Taranatha took this idea further, suggesting that the process of uncovering this nature requires both rigorous intellectual inquiry and deep meditative practice. His commentaries on Tantric practices, such as deity yoga, provide practical guidance for practitioners seeking to transform their ordinary perceptions into enlightened awareness. Through visualization and mantra recitation, practitioners can dissolve the barriers between themselves and the divine, experiencing a direct communion with enlightened beings. This approach reflects Taranatha's belief that the ultimate goal of Buddhist practice is not just intellectual understanding, but experiential realization. Why do visions matter? The human-divine connection. Let's pause and ask ourselves, why do mystical visions hold such power in spiritual traditions? Is it because they offer proof of something greater than ourselves? Or is it because they remind us of our potential to transcend the mundane and touch the divine? Think about it. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and endless demands, how often do we allow ourselves to sit quietly, to listen deeply, Taranatha's vision with Mañjuśrī wasn't just a personal event. It was a universal message. It told us that wisdom is always available, if only we have the courage to seek it. But seeking isn't enough. We must also be open to receiving. Are you ready to receive? Are you willing to let go of preconceived notions and embrace the unknown? And here's another thought-provoking question. What if everyone had access to such visions? Would the world be different? Perhaps we'd see less division, more compassion, and a deeper understanding of our shared humanity. After all, isn't enlightenment simply the realization that we are all connected? Visions also challenge us to reconsider the nature of reality itself. Are the boundaries between the physical and the metaphysical as rigid as we believe? Or is there a fluidity to existence that allows for moments of transcendence? Taranatha's experiences suggest that reality is far more malleable than we might think. They invite us to explore the edges of consciousness, to push beyond the limits of what we perceive as possible. In many ways, visions serve as bridges between the human and the divine. They remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, that our individual struggles and triumphs are threads in a much grander tapestry. This realization can be both humbling and empowering. On one hand, it reminds us of our smallness in the face of infinity. On the other hand, it affirms our potential to contribute meaningfully to the unfolding of existence. Controversies and critiques. The price of visionary insight. Of course, not everyone believed Taranatha's claims. Some skeptics dismissed his visions as mere fantasies, products of an overactive imagination. Others accused him of distorting Buddhist doctrine to suit his own agenda. But isn't skepticism part of the human condition? Don't we all question what we cannot see or touch? Yet, here's the irony. Isn't it possible that the very act of questioning leads us closer to truth? Taranatha faced criticism. Yes, but he also inspired countless practitioners to explore the boundaries of their own minds. Isn't that worth celebrating? In the end, does it really matter whether his visions were real, in the conventional sense? What matters is the impact they had, the way they challenged people to think, to grow, to evolve. This brings us to another intriguing point: the tension between tradition and innovation. Taranatha's advocacy of the Shentong view put him at odds with some schools of Tibetan Buddhism, particularly the Gelugpa tradition, which favored the Rangtong, self-emptiness, perspective. Was Taranatha a rebel, daring to challenge established norms? Or was he simply a seeker, following the truth wherever it led him? Either way, his willingness to stand by his convictions serves as a powerful reminder that progress often requires stepping outside the comfort zone of orthodoxy. The controversies surrounding Taranatha also highlight the complexities of religious authority. In Tibetan Buddhism, legitimacy is often tied to lineage and institutional backing. Taranatha's association with the Jonang school, which later faced suppression under the Gelug-dominated government, meant that his teachings were marginalized for a time. Yet, despite these challenges, his work survived, carried forward by devoted followers who recognized their value. This resilience speaks volumes about the enduring power of authentic spiritual insight. A legacy that lives on. What can we learn from Taranatha? So, what can we take away from Taranatha's story? First, the importance of perseverance. Imagine the discipline it took for him to sit in meditation day after day, year after year, until finally, the veil between worlds lifted. Could you do the same? Could you commit yourself so fully to a path, even when the destination seems uncertain? Second, the value of humility. Despite his extraordinary experiences, Taranatha never claimed superiority. Instead, he used his gifts to serve others, to preserve and share the wisdom he had received. Isn't that the true mark of greatness? Not self-aggrandizement, but selflessness. Finally, the power of vision. Not just the kind that comes in dreams or meditations, but the kind that guides our lives. What is your vision for the world? For yourself? Are you brave enough to follow it? even when others doubt you. Remember, every great change begins with someone who dares to see beyond the horizon. Closing reflections. The eternal quest for wisdom. As we reflect on Taranatha's life and legacy, let's ask ourselves, what does it mean to live a meaningful life? Is it about accumulating wealth, fame, or power? Or is it about seeking truth, fostering connection, and leaving the world a little brighter than we found it? Taranatha reminds us that wisdom is not confined to books or temples. It lives within each of us, waiting to be awakened. So, the next time you sit in silence, remember his story. Who knows? Maybe the bodhisattva of wisdom is closer than you think. Maybe all it takes is a moment of stillness, a spark of curiosity, and an open heart. In the grand tapestry of human history, Taranatha stands as a testament to the enduring power of vision, courage, and compassion. His story challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question the status quo, and to embrace the infinite possibilities of the human spirit. Isn't that what life is all about? Taranatha's vision of Mañjuśrī is not just a historical account. It's a timeless reminder of the human capacity to transcend limitations, connect with the divine, and uncover profound truths. By exploring his story with wonder, emotion, and philosophical reflection, we discover not only his legacy, but also the infinite possibilities within ourselves.